First off, talking about this new album, Nowhere to Land, you are quoted as saying, "This album feels more true to me than anything I've done yet." What makes a song or an album more true?
Oh, that's a good one right off the bat there. Uh, I guess, I guess at this point, I just felt like I wasn't trying to please any sort of thing or anyone, and just doing the music that just kind of came out of me. A lot of these songs I wrote during the pandemic, and they just felt really from my gut. I don't know, in a different way, and even in the production and stuff. Um, just tapping into more of my southern roots. I,
Mm,
you know, um,
I mean, because
yeah,
I've heard of
I
cases.
didn't think too much. I
Okay,
just kind of let it roll.
right, right.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, because I've heard of cases in the past where it's like artists, in an attempt to be more commercial, maybe like, okay, I'm gonna round this edge off a little bit and make this a little bit more, a
mm-hmm.
little bit more listener friendly or whatever. People are going for this now, and so sometimes they just say, you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna be more edgy, and it's not gonna fit into any neat box, but it'll be more me. Is that kind of
I
what
would
the vibe was?
I would say so. I mean, now you want stuff to sound good.
Yeah.
I also try not to let myself get too bogged down by achieving some unattainable perfection. I mean, I guess we all can get caught up in that. But sometimes you just got to force yourself just to let go, and just roll with the feeling of it, more than getting too analytical.
Yeah.
I felt like I did that a lot on this album, I guess is how I look at it.
Okay. Okay. I mean, because, if I hadn't read about that, I wouldn't have known, because everything is very polished and you've got this great band that's playing with you and backing vocals and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't sound like a demo or anything like that, but it's just, I guess when you get into the meat of the lyrics and all that kind of stuff, it's okay, maybe that's a little bit more raw.
I will say this about the production side. I think that some of that comes from, man, just been doing it a long a long time. So things hopefully get a little bit easier. That's what we hope.
Right.
It's like just brutal repetition of life, just doing playing over and over. Those songs, I played them a lot acoustically.
Yeah.
I was doing these weekly live stream things just because I was like, oh, what do I do now?
Right.
Like a lot of people were. I'm used to going out and playing, and I kind of honed in on, like, all right, I really want to make these songs work. You know, just a dude sitting there with the guitar and singing them. So that's how they all were came to be.
Mm.
Really got into
Sorry.
yeah, I really got into finger picking a lot more and just keeping grooves going with my thumb. I'd never really worked on that hard, and I really woodshedded on that.
Huh.
Uh,
Did it change your approach to writing melodies?
oh, for sure, because I'm trying to write melodies that I can play at the same time. Like just inspired by like Mississippi John Hurt and stuff like that. Where these guys are playing the melody and keeping a groove going, just because that's what
Yeah.
got. And that's what I had sitting around my house was the guitar. I didn't feel like messing with amps and pedals. And I've been in loud rock bands all my life. I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to
Yeah.
kind of find something more at the heart of it. And so that's how I recorded all these. So I'd been playing them live a lot, doing these live streams, which I was saying almost killed me trying to get the technology to work. But I think I got a thing kind of dialed in there, got it to sound pretty good
Hmm.
doing streams. And so I was writing a lot of songs, and these songs were just, it was a great way to just toss them out into the world, you know, and see kind of what was maybe touching somebody in some way. Because I'm of the mind that, like, if I write a song and I have something that's I feel like, okay, I'm ready to do this, I'll if I write something that day and I have a show that night, I'll go for it, you know,
Oh, wow.
because, like, you know, I'm not saying I'm gonna go up there and play a half-baked song, but if I've got
Yeah.
it, okay, I can do this. I've got a bridge, I've got a chorus, you know,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of choruses, whatever. I'm gonna go for it. One, just to challenge myself and throw myself in the fire. I think that's good. You know? Two, um, because I feel like for me, I'll learn more doing that than I would for 6 months sitting around playing the song, you know? Like, you
Yeah.
just feel like, I mean, I did that at a show the other day I was doing during South by Southwest. I had this new tune. I felt really strongly about it, and it didn't have a middle eight. And when I played it live, um, I was like, I got to write a bridge for that song. I just knew that you know, okay, I can feel in my body that when I got to that part, that song needs a middle eight. I don't think I would, you know, known that without playing it in front of people. You kind of feel that energy. I don't know
Yeah.
how to describe it. It's just kind of how I what works for me, you know.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, then, pre-internet and pre everyone having a, a video recorder attached to their phone, I think it was a lot more common for artists to road test material before ever recording it, just
Mhm.
again because there's some sort of feedback you get and a feel and a vibe of, all right, does this work live and how do people respond to it?
You can. There's something about. I hate to get all philosophical sounding, but there's something about just like the look on people's faces. You can just feel it, you know. I
Yeah.
can look at the audience and see somebody's foot moving, and I know, oh, okay, I'm in the right groove for this. That's all it takes, you know. And especially, you know, if I see somebody that maybe they've caught onto the chorus by the last one, well, that's really a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they've never heard the song, so I used to never think about these kinds of things, you know, and this is something that I think just has come with grinding away at it for so long. You
Right. Right.
know? I wish I knew a lot of this when I was younger, but that's just the way the world rolls, man. You know,
Yeah, yeah, I get it. But I mean, I think that's really cool that also, I don't know, it's great to hear when an artist is reading the audience and you know, it's not just like they could be singing to a wall or a camera or something like that. It's there is a give and take to it. Because there's as an audience member you're not always sure, and also there's some people that just, all right, this is the show and I go and do it every single night, and but it's always great to hear that, oh no, there is a two-way communication going.
you know. Otherwise, I, I, that's part of the fulfillment of it for me.
Yeah.
Um, I used to not even talk about songs on stage much, and just wasn't my thing.
Mm-hmm.
It feels weird when I don't. You know, I like to you know give a little bit of behind the song when I'm playing them, and I feel
Right.
like people can relate it to their lives and however they're feeling it, you know. But it makes it more. I feel like I can sink into a deeper place with the song playing it live when I'm kind of spilling my guts a little bit before it,
Yeah.
as
Right. Right.
uncomfortable as that might be sometimes.
Okay.
Not ever, but you know.
Yeah. And one of the songs that really fascinated me on this album is Someday I Will See You. Um, and what intrigued me is it's got this really fun driving beat. If you're just into it for the groove, um, it's really just light and buoyant. But then when you really pay attention to the lyrics, it's about this really sad idea. this concept of looking to, beyond when, these two people are not going to be together, and you're going to see some, this person out with someone else, someone who is now their significant other. And I'm wondering, did you purposely decide, I'm going to write a song that plays with that contradiction, with a happy feel, with a sad message, or is that just the way the muse kind of speaks to you?
Man, that was one of those, and that was just something I was going through at the time. And that was one of those songs that it just popped out, you know. And I just started playing that groove, and the melody kind of hit me, and going to the guess that sixth chord there in the core. It sounded like an interesting change to me, and the melody kind of told me where to go. I don't know, it's like a melody guides, for me, a melody guides the lyrics a lot of times. It's a feeling. And that one, it wasn't purposeful. It just kind of came about. And I found a demo of that song actually on my phone when I first wrote it, and it is much slower.
Oh, okay.
Maybe, yeah. Well, a lot of times that's the case if you listen back and find your original demos. But I mean, it had the same groove and riff. I was just kind of out.
But it's this fascinating thing where you were able to make these two kind of opposing feelings work within one song,
Well, I guess I was trying to find, when I talk about that song live, I always say that, you hope you'd wish them the best.
Yeah.
So maybe in some ways, in the bridge, it talks about, even in the darkest times, there's a beauty there to find. Maybe it is looking for some resolve there in it.
Yeah, right. Trying to put an optimistic spin on the whole situation.
I mean, you kind of have to. Yeah.
To stay sane, probably. And then the other thing, in more along the lines of lyrics. So the song "Why Won't You Call," I love the line, "I heard you sneak it in. Guess you forgot to WD-40 the hinge," which is what?
Glad you caught that.
Yeah. Well, number one, it's this quirky line, but two, it's one of the nastiest put downs you could have, and in terms of this, in terms of calling someone out like that. There's this wonderful sarcasm about it that you don't always hear in a song, and but what I'm wondering about is, and maybe this just makes it extra interesting for me, is just the actual term, the name WD-40. You didn't use oil the hinge or lube the hinge or whatever it was. It's WD-40, which, I don't know, for some reason makes it sound even worse and sneakier than someone actually taking a can and
I've just always had a thing about WD-40. I feel like it's kind of like one of those things that can do so much. Different situations, and it's always like, oh man, oh, I've got this gunk all over my window and I can't get up. Oh, spray some WD-40 on there, that'll do it.
Right.
It's cure alls. I've always just thought it was a thing, and somebody, that song was inspired by, I actually got somebody told me that at some point, like, make sure you keep your hinges oiled to your front door, if you're going to be out gallivanting around town, so you when you sneak in. And that's what kind of inspired the song,
Wow.
Yeah. I always say I've been on both sides of that coin for sure. I've been the person, I've been out being a jackass, so it's sort of a playful song in that way.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Things they don't teach you in school that, are helpful in the real world. Um,
I don't
but
remember where I heard that. It was somebody said that one time. It always stuck with me. And I finally, it just popped up when I was writing that song. Popped up in my mind. I was like, well, there's that third verse I'm needing right there.
yeah.
you know.
And it's again, it just, but it has a genuineness because, number one, you turn the brand name into a verb, which everyone does with WD-40. It's like, oh, let me just WD-40 that, but to me, that's what makes it more natural, more conversational. And it seems like a lot of other songwriters might have been like, oh, we can't mention an actual brand name, it's not poetic enough, that kind of thing. But it's like, but that's how people speak and talk, and and I don't know if that's an argument that goes on in your mind or not, but that's just how it kind of comes across to me and why it's so great.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, I will say this about that. I, of course, those things come to mind about, oh, can I say that? You got this devil on your shoulder thing going on. It's like, am I going to look like a fool for saying that? Is that poetic enough? And I'm kind of, where I try to get is I just don't care. I
Hmm.
just, I try not to let things like that. I just want to do what feels right. And there's been many times I've played that song and people come up to me, and I'll catch them laughing when I sing it, and then people will mention it after the show. If I would have said oil, that would have never happened.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Right.
and I think I'm always trying to, be more. I think when you're younger writing songs, at least for me, you feel like you want to prove how clever and poetic you are, and I'm trying to get somewhere else besides that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Right.
then I listen
No.
to I'll listen to a Muddy Waters record. He just says the damn thing.
Right.
I like that, and I'm always trying to get more of that and less the other.
Right. And again, also because it's it goes back to the idea the singer has to wear the song. So it's like, all right, is this really what you would say? Is this how you would express it?
It's a really good.
You yourself. Um, it also reminds me of years ago, Stephen King had this book that was part autobiography, part book about writing, and it was called On Writing, and it just talked about his journey and then had all this advice. And one thing he was big on was, essentially get rid of your thesaurus. Like, don't try and, oh, I'm going to try and make this sound more impressive, or what's a better word for this? Just go with what comes to mind. That's going to be the best, and most natural way to fit anyway.
Yeah, that's really good, and I think that's something to strive for, at least for
Mm-hmm.
the doing.
Yeah. And then, kind of along the lines of self-editing. So you were in addition to writing and singing, you also produced this and you also mixed the album. What's the key to um evaluating your own work accurately when you put on those other hats?
Well, first of all, it's a private hell that you have to walk through. you know, um, I started recording and geeking out on recording when I was like a teenager. I got a 4-track when I was like 13, little
Mm-hmm.
8 cassette 4-track, and it's always kind of been one and one to me. Recording, playing, you gotta. It's like that. You got to record so you can play the song, so you can record the song. So it's like that scene in Boogie Nights when he goes, well, "Those are our tapes, and we have to have the tapes to make to sell the tapes to make the
Right.
money for the studio." um, I work with other bands too in the studio, and
Right.
try to get myself to a place where, like, all right, I'm just going to pretend this isn't me. You know what I mean? And try to get it in kind of an objective mindset when they say if I'm mixing or record. I mean, I know what I want the music to sound like. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
for that, when I'm writing a song and I've played it, I'm kind of already ahead and thinking, okay, this is kind of the vibe I'm going for here. I'll be thinking about what instrumentation, if it's going to have any on there pretty early on. I'm not rigid with it. When I get players in that I respect, sometimes I won't say anything
Mm-hmm.
and just see where they go with it. Now, if there's
Okay.
something kind of going in a different way, I'll be like, I don't know if that's quite it. I smell what you're stepping in, but let's try maybe try this little melody here or something, see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to get controlly, freaky, and
Yeah.
I don't really want to be that. I've been that, and I probably will again, but try to avoid it. The mixing, on this record, I mixed the whole thing. I got stoked on. I'll get on a record, and I'll listen to it over and over and over again, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that dangerous sometimes, because this one I got into was Car Wheels on the Gravel Road, listen to Williams
Hmm.
record. It's so good. And it's really, really, really dry
Hmm.
in a cool way.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to make this record just bone dry, stark. And I did. Mastered it. Everything was ready to go. I didn't listen to it for a while, and I put it on a few months later. And I was like, man, I think I might want to add some more vibe to this. And so I ended up remixing a bunch of it, which I don't like going back and redoing stuff, but I did. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go wacko with any verb or anything. I just put a little, I just call it, I put a little sweetener on it, put a little, just put a little air around it,
Yeah. Yeah.
a little bit more, how I would naturally kind of do stuff. Um, so that goes to the thing is like, oh, maybe you're never done with it. But at that point, and then of course I did that. And I was like, man, there's a couple of lines on here that are kind of bumming me a little bit in hindsight. I can fix them. So you know what? I'm going to do it. So I went and
Okay.
punched up a couple of lines. I mean, minor stuff
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
nobody would ever notice, ever. But the
Right.
thing, and I try not to, if I'm working with somebody in the studio, I try not to say things like that to people because it might mean a lot to them,
Yeah.
and so I just said that to myself.
All right.
It's like, uh, I'm the one that's going to have to live with this thing and stand behind it. And if those little things are bothering me, I'm going to fix them.
Makes
So I did.
sense. Yeah. Yeah. Although, what's interesting about that, because I read, in addition to these live stream shows that you did during COVID, you were also part of this group, this club, where you had to perform a new song once a week. And you said it, because of those deadlines and stuff, it taught you to maybe be not so precious with songs. Um, and I'm
Yes.
So then what's the key to that balance between saying, all right, it's a deadline and I'm not going to be too precious, but also on the other hand, I want there to be the quality there, how that seems like an eternal inner struggle.
Well put. If somebody told me, before I did those changes, a couple of line punches, if somebody said, this has to go out today or yesterday, and I'd say, okay, roll with it. I could live with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I did have the chance, so I did. As far as the songwriting thing, I think that's a different muscle a little bit with the deadlines for the songs, because that's like, you had to have the song turned in. I mean, it could just be a phone recording, but you got to have a song written.
Hmm.
And with what I was saying about uh, the precious line is, um, it's kind of keep you from overthinking a little bit. Okay, let's just finish the song.
Mm.
Lines can always be changed. I was reading something with Elvis Costello that he was talking about. Man, he had songs that written years ago and still changing lines on them.
Oh,
They
wow.
always be change, but if you just you got to get something down on the paper, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and that melody and the cadence, words can shift around. And what I found is some of those just gut things that I got 10 minutes to get this bridge written or something. It ends up being some of my favorite stuff.
Oh, wow.
It's just like stuff that it's really coming from your core, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah, because you don't, I guess, have a chance to overthink
You
things.
don't have a, yeah.
So now when you write, do you try and, create artificial deadlines to force yourself back into that vibe?
Well, I'm sitting on several unfinished songs right now,
Okay.
to be honest. Uh, but I use shows for that, especially
Ah,
shows that I'm, maybe a little, maybe they're bigger shows I'm a little nervous about. It's like let's do something, really take it to the edge and play a new song that night,
yeah.
um, just to challenge myself. So I do make deadlines for myself.
Okay. Okay.
I have something I need to finish that I'm going to, but I've been recording a lot, and I've got 9 or 10 songs, to various points of completion for next project.
Oh, okay.
So
Wow.
I'm trying to stay ahead of the curve for once in my life,
Right.
and not always be last minute. Homework's not done yet.
Right.
So, um, yeah. So the deadlines are good,
Yeah. Yeah.
whether artificial or or real.
Right. And then, so going through the liner notes and the guitar work is credited to both you and Doug Strahan. Um, and I'm curious, what how are you guys different as guitarists, and what did you typically bring to a song, and what does Doug typically bring to a song?
Well, I will. I've never made an album like I made this album, and
Hmm.
how I made this album was I started with a loop that I would make. I'd find a groove, I'd make a loop, and I cut that guitar and vocal live
Okay.
of the song. And I got that to where I was like, okay, if somebody came in here and put a gun to my head tomorrow and they said, you can't have any other instrumentation, this stuff is going out just like this, that I would feel good about it.
Oh,
So that the songs, before anybody heard it, the lead vocals and the acoustic guitar were done.
okay.
And they were going to be heard. Uh, and then but because at the time, I couldn't have everybody in the studio at one time.
Right.
So um, I only played one electric guitar on the whole album,
Oh.
which is not normal for me. I just, I like Doug's playing a lot, and I just kind of was wanting to go for not as much, any kind of guitar layering. I wanted to be like, okay, there's that guitar, that guy. You can kind of lock in on that,
Right.
you know. I just like his playing. I'd done a record with him as an artist, and I just did the Uncle Lucius record, and he was on that.
Okay.
He sings harmonies too. He sings great harmonies.
Nice.
So you just get a guy like that in there, and you knock it out in a day. You know,
Hmm.
days. Have him sing harmonies while you got him in there.
Yeah.
Have,
Yeah.
but what I did is I had the guitar and vocals done, and then I brought in drums and just got the grooves down,
Hmm.
and then just kind of built the house up from there.
Okay.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah.
And then, speaking of guitars, the song Cherry Sunburst. First, did you play a Cherry Sunburst Les Paul on that song?
I played a Cherry Sunburst Gibson J45.
Okay.
That's what's inspired the song. Yeah, and I also played a a Tele Deluxe.
Oh, okay.
The one with the humbuckers in it and the big headstock. That's my favorite Tele. It's like one of the first electric guitars I remember seeing in my life. One of my friends' dads had one, and I
Hmm.
just loved them. You know, the Tele Deluxe, and
Yeah.
they make a reissue of it that's pretty cheap. I think it's a great guitar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And this song has another fabulous line where it says, "I knew right then of me you'd be making a fool."
right.
Um, First off, um, again, is that just kind of how it came out, or did you play with it? Because it's one of those examples, like if you're trying to just say it in conversation, or if you read it on the page, grammatically it just does not work. But when you put it into a song, when it becomes a lyric, when it becomes something you sing, then it's like, oh, then it's this really cool poetic turn of phrase.
Well, you got to get the dadgum syllables right.
Yeah.
I remember I needed like two more boink boinks on there to make the words roll. And I think I have another one like that in that song. I'm trying to think of what it says, but yeah, that's funny. You mentioned that line, and
So that was
that is.
that.
I would never say that maybe that way, but
Right.
it does work in the song, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so that was the impetus, is like I needed a couple of more beats.
Beats, that's the word.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other question, but that is, okay, in what way did you foresee that this guitar would make a fool of you?
Because I certainly wasn't in a position or didn't need to be obtaining a guitar in any way, shape, or form at the time. You know, uh, it was it's kind of a funny song to me in some ways, because I went down to this music store and that guitar was hanging there, and it just, it was like there was a halo around this thing hanging on the wall. All the other guitars faded, kind of like when you put that portrait effect on a camera.
Right, right, yeah.
You know, it's like, dang, man, I don't, and for 3 weeks I said to talk myself out of trying to figure out some way to get that thing, and I just, I couldn't shake it,
Mhm.
and I thought it was kind of just a nice comparison to anything like that. That
Yeah.
it's not a good idea, but that dang humans gotta
Right,
do it.
right. Yeah, no, that goes back to the what is it, a Barry White line, if loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Um Yeah, and I have yet to meet a guitarist who doesn't have a guitar problem, because there's always, they've always got tons, and it's like, oh, there's always another one they have their eye on, and they feel the pull of it all.
What's funny for me, I'm not really I'm not one to have a bunch. I don't have a bunch of guitars. Most of the guitars I've had like most of my life.
Okay.
So, so that's kind of another reason it was a little bit funny to me that I got kind of obsessed with it, because, I have this, when I was 7 or 8 years old, I got a Epiphone guitar from my dad's buddy that gave it to me. I mean, I still have it.
Hmm.
It's a Sorrento 61 hollow body,
Okay.
beautiful guitar. And I hated it when I was a kid. My brother and I, we wanted you know, BC Rich Warlocks and Flying V's and stuff. We didn't think
Right,
it was
right.
cool. And I abused that guitar and we broke the neck off one time, and getting out here to Austin, I took it up to a music store. It's like, what is this thing? I didn't really know much about it. And they go, that's a 1961 Sorrento. And yeah, it's worth getting fixed. So I did. I got it fixed up, and it's a gem of a guitar.
Hmm.
I owe that fella. He's long gone now, the guy that gave it to me, but it's one of those things, it changes your life. Get that
Yeah,
guitar when I
yeah.
was a kid. Um, it's kind of like that with a couple of acoustics I've had forever. But there's something about that Cherry Sunburst, and it made me stupid. It was song worthy.
Yeah, well, hey, at least that way it becomes a business write-off. So,
Oh, for sure. And I play it every show. I play
okay.
that. I keep it tuned to like I have been writing some songs in some open tunings, mainly open D. I like
Mhm.
how it sounds. And I've been that one just tuned to an open D on stage, so I can just grab it and play it, not have to fool
Yeah,
with the deal on the other one.
right, right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so you mentioned your brother, and one thing that really fascinated me was, reading through the bio and finding out your brother was the guitarist for the band Blind Melon, which has, needless to say, a very different sound than you do with your work. And so I'm wondering though, what is the common denominator between the work he's done and the work you've done?
I think Blind Melon definitely has some southern rock vibes in there to me. I guess it depends on what album you listen to, but we never. He was older enough, that we never really we were in different bands. We were in completely different scenes.
Hmm.
He had moved out to L.A. when I was in junior high.
Okay.
You know, to get all that together, which he did. But I always really looked up to him.
Hmm.
And it's like, man, he just left because everybody, where I grew up, it's like you got to get out of Mississippi, and you leave if
Hmm.
you rock, and that's what he did. Um, yeah, trying to think of where we were going on that one,
I would
but
just, the both of you being guitarists, and then Blind Melon having kind of a different sound when at least when I first encountered them in the '90s. um you know um and so I don't know, I just found it fascinating that two guitarists with similar backgrounds or similar upbringing, at least, produce very different results in a way.
yeah, I've filled in for him in Blind Melon before and learned all his
Oh, wow.
every dang. He's more of a lead guitar player than I. I mean, I can do that. It's
Hmm.
just everything that it's been something I've strived for. I'm always trying to like, how can I simplify this as much as possible and be cool and just have a great song here.
Yeah.
Um, but I filled in for him on some shows and learned all of those parts, and it probably about killed me. But yeah, I did some tours with them.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it was fun.
Fun, but kind of took a lot out of you, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, they called me and they were like, "Hey, do you want to do this show in Japan?" This was about eight years ago when they're doing some reunion stuff,
Yeah.
and I said, "Yeah, it sounds cool." They're like, "Well, it's in like 7 days,
Oh my
something
God.
real tight." It's like, "Can you learn it?" I was like, "All right, I'll do it." I
Oh,
just hunkered down,
yeah.
had that list, and just went nuclear on it. Just learned it.
Wow. Cool. All right. Well, that takes care of all my questions. Is there anything we didn't discuss that you want to talk about?
Huh? Man, I feel like we talked about a lot here. Um, I guess if this comes out before I'm in North Carolina, we'll be playing there on May 6th.
Hmm.
Slim's on Monday. I'm going to be on the road for like a month starting.
Okay.
My album comes out April 12th.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Actually, that song Cherry Sunburst comes out on Friday, which is the
Oh, this
26th.
Friday. Okay. Cool.
I'm trying to get my mind geared up for that.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's like you sit on this stuff and it's done, and then not a lot of people have heard it yet.
Right. Right.
It's a little bit stressful for me. You just never know.
Yeah.
You want people to like it, but you also you try not to care what people think, but also you do have to care what people think. You
Right.
want
Right.
people to like it and connect with it. So I'm excited about it coming out. It's a little different sounding than anything I put out is in my solo stuff. So,
But yeah, but it's I don't know. It's like all the other quotes I've seen already about people who've talked about the pre-release, and it's just there's a strong element of songwriting in there that's reflective of like a Tom Petty or one of those kind of guys, where it's just it feels like you've heard the song before somehow.
well, that's cool. I feel like that's some of the music that I don't know. I feel like the music you hear when I call it wagon rock. Stuff you hear in the station wagon on the AM as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
It hits you, and it sinks somewhere deep inside, and it's always there. And that was a lot of that I can remember. It's like, um, just like starting over, John Lennon, songs like that, just songs I remember hearing. Tom Petty stuff,
Right. Right.
just those melodies and songs. It's just what I've always wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I spent a lot of time in bands not really doing that. Trying to be this, trying to be that, something.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that anymore.
Right.
I'm going to write the music, do the music I want to do.
Right. And in the same respect, it's a genre I would say that for a lot of people it sounds easy, but it's really hard to make songs that sound that easy. Uh um
Yeah, I was talking about that with a buddy the other night. We were watching this band called the Tender Things here in town, a really cool band, and they were playing this groove that was just so slow,
hmm.
and it very kind of Levon Helm feeling groove, and we were just like, 20 years ago, none of those guys could have done that. They make it look so easy, and everybody's just serving the machine of the song.
Yeah.
They're each their little cog, and they're playing their thing, and nobody's stepping on another thing. And I think that just comes with just doing it, and not really having anything to prove, but prove that the whole is what we're trying to achieve here. And to me, that's the same as making what I always shoot for, making records is the sound of the whole.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would be tempted. It's easy to get tempted to, we need another part, we need this, we need that, we need more stuff. And I really made an effort on this album to leave as much space as I could,
Oh,
because it's like the AC/DC effect. It's like it sounds bigger with less stuff on it.
yeah. Yeah.
There's more air to sink into. If you fill everything with something, then what is there? So
Right.
you
You got to
know,
let it
uh,
breathe.
not trying to not be tempted to add too many things or add another part. Yeah, I could write another verse and maybe or how about not?
Right.
Like, what would Buddy Holly have done here? The song would already be over.
Right. Yeah.
I've always loved that kind of stuff, and it's about kind of, I think, pushing past those temptations and letting go and be like, hey, let this stand on its own as it's sitting. And
Yeah.
it's not about showing what you can do or your skills. It's about like this piece of art, this piece of work.